Keith.
Cameron, what's happening?
Bro.
It's going to be a rant show today.
Yeah, this is the WTF episode again. So, before we jump into that, I'm wearing my spaceman hat to remind myself to be like Dave.
I dig it.
Be like Dave.
I love it.
If you can't be like Dave, you have no possibility of surviving. And one other thing related. So you know how last week we were extolling the virtues of Arthur C. Clarke?
Yep.
I mean,
great.
Talented human being, awesome futurist, thinks about things in a completely different way. So I am rereading all of the Odyssey series, and I'm just finishing 2061.
Okay. 2061.
Yeah. So Dave's essence comes back, and I think as I was texting you, I'm near the end, and they're talking about the trinity of Haywood Floyd, Dave Bowman, and HAL the computer. So HAL is not dead. He has dissected the monolith and is now figuring out, how the comms with the monolith work. Anyway.
So I didn't even know they did a part 2 and part 3. So how does
there's 2010. You probably saw that movie with Roy Scheider.
Okay. No, I haven't seen that.
That was shite. You should stream that. But it at least follows 2001 closely, right? Both in terms of years and the plot is directly related to the discovery to HAL, etc.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
And you kind of get a little bit of a payoff as to like Dave comes back, he goes to Earth, basically gives them a warning. And then Dave comes back again in 2061 with another payoff, which is why the warning about not going to the particular satellite near Jupiter.
Interesting.
Now, I have to say, I read all of these in my teens and my 20s, and 2001 is the one that I became enamored with, both from the movie and the book. And it's the one that I've reread multiple times. I don't know that I've reread the other ones until now.
So does Dave's essence come back as like a radio signal, or how does it?
They don't really, which may lead us into some conversations for today. It's like he is present. I don't know how else to describe it. He's present, right? At the very end of 2001, he's described as a star child, right? He kind of he merges with whatever the entity, first by going through a wormhole, essentially, and then actually landing wherever it is that he ends up, merging with the other intelligence live, and then ultimately dies, and then, I guess, without getting into religion or spirituality, I guess, is waiting to be reborn.
I mean, I guess at that point, it's like if time, not that it doesn't exist, but it's like it's kind of collapsed, because if it's like a relative thing where it's moving faster or slower relative to us, then it's just like, okay, I mean, we're waiting, maybe.
Yeah, who knows?
But so if he's kind of like present, is it like, how is he showing up in the world? Like, in what ways is he present?
Very good question. He shows up to various people as himself, different ages. So in 2010, he shows up to his dying mother, and he shows up to his past girlfriend, and delivers a message basically like, hey, I loved you, etc.
Like a spirit.
Kind of. Like he's more of a psychological apparition, if you will. At least, again, not Clarke's description, but as I've read these now, and like I said, I'm nearing the end of 2061, he's having a conversation with Floyd, and Floyd is sort of like, is this the same thing like when you came back, right before I went on I can't remember I guess he's on a Russian ship in 2010.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So anyway, and now the funny thing is in 2061, Floyd's over 100, right? Because he's been living on a space station in low Earth orbit for 60 years or 50 years.
God.
So by 2010, he was already in his 50s, and now he's like over 100. But anyway, so Floyd, Dave, and Hal are now having a conversation, and I'm just getting to the part where Dave is explaining how he and Hal are dissecting the inner workings of the monolith, because it is part technology, part comm item, et cetera, right?
Like spiritual, very forward, advanced technology thing. Crystal oscillator.
Yeah, I mean, it's driving evolution, basically, I think is
Yeah.
the basics of it, right? It's intelligent experimentation and evolution, which is what, the segments that we played last week are the quote genesis of that, and now you're learning how that is done. But it is not spiritual, it is definitely technology. Some sort of intelligent technology that even Hal can't quite figure out. He's hacked the lower level functions of it, basically.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Huh.
But
there's a lot of like different pieces of this, because is it like, so if you take Clarke's third law of like, any technology that's super advanced is basically magic because we don't understand how it works. I wonder if there's like an equal opposite, like, I don't know, maybe spirituality is the way people make meaning of the thing, of like a presence or something. Because it may not, if there's like a causal relationship or like a one-to-one, like a A plus B equals C kind of thing, then okay, maybe I don't know. I'm wondering if there's going to be both, because like with the whole new Claudebot thing, or whatever they call it, Moltbot or whatever that got released.
Yep.
Supposedly people, I don't know who it was, but someone let them kind of run amok, and there's a bunch of them just making their own religion now. It's like Christafarianism or something. So, dude, it's like
they're rad.
Yeah, well, it's like, and it gets back to the Hans Morvac thing we talked about, like briefly, of like if there's enough processing power and memory, and then it's like, what? I don't know where this begins and where this ends, and I think that's what we're about to get into, and this is why everyone's like, WTF is going on in the world right now? Because it doesn't matter where you are or what's happening. Like, everyone's not freaking out. Like, COVID was different. COVID was kind of like a different kind of crisis, but this is just kind of like, we feel like we're accelerating over the roller coaster, about to go over the top, and it's like, we know we can't get off. We know it's going to go fast. We know about to go drop through this kind of like portal, wormhole, whatever, and no one really knows where we're going to land. And the harder you try and control what that is, like the worse it's going to be, because you're trying to steer the future based on like a recency bias. Like you're driving in the rearview mirror, and that's not the way to go.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, everybody, I think you're hitting on a bunch of things. Everybody's waiting in some way,
Yeah.
And the dimensions of the waiting seem to be around a few things, depending on where you're spending your time, maybe where you are geographically, but there's the political waiting. People don't love friendly fascism.
Yeah.
And
totally don't see that in immigration law.
I bet. So there you go.
So what are the
There's
different
partially
pillars?
your dimension. I think where I sit geographically, everybody is, I sit in the epicenter of AI development, right? Not at work, but geographically, right?
Silicon Valley.
Where I live is all about that. The conversations in the cafe are about that. The conversations, if somebody figures out that you have something to do with it, turn to that. And, it isn't filled with the miracle that it potentially is. It's filled with so how long do I have before X, right? And most of it's negative. So
before I lose my job, how much more is this stuff how much more expensive a thing's gonna get? Like, dude, are people, the irony that video gamers basically funded like the GPU acceleration, and now they're getting like the rug pulled out from under them. Like GPUs like almost doubled in price in the past like 6 months.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway, this is because the Uber driver I basically built a machine. I'm building machine. He has like AWS certs, and he was like, "What the hell do I do?" And he's laughing because I'm like, "Dude, eggs are going up, chicken, like everything's going up right now. Like it's not cheap." And he's like, "Yeah, he doesn't know what to do because even though he has these certs, he didn't know if he should keep doing AI stuff or go into it more or kind of how to do it." So it gets back to like the whole curiosity thing from the last episode. No, it was 2 episodes ago. That was the end of season 1 about curiosity leading to faith. But it's the acceleration of this exponential level of change, and we're linear humans, and we just don't know we don't have the tools to keep up with that anymore.
Yeah. I mean, again, kind of as we have talked, I remember sitting in a home improvement parking lot talking to you. I'm going to guess probably 3.5 years ago about the impending shift in, at this point in the world of design and in the world of how businesses need to evolve their thinking. And we were still trying to figure out, do we write a book? Do we go and do presentations or try and talk at different events? And you were submitting us for another event. And we were also just trying to figure out, like, how do we encapsulate this? But nevertheless, the thing that I was, I think, impassionately talking to you about and saying, I'm part worried and I'm also part like thinking this is a thing. It took us another 2.5 years or maybe longer to come up with like, okay, it's a podcast and we should start doing this, right? And then last year we did it. But long-winded way of saying what it sparked for me, which I ended up doing about 8-9 months after you and I were talking, was to kind of pull out our old decks and take into account some of the thinking that, is now over 10 years old. And I abstracted that because it's a different business problem. But what I got down to was some of the basic pillars that we discussed last year that I'm not going to rehash.
Yeah.
But I went and did this presentation to the people that I work with to say, like, hey, I see a big change coming. I see impending shifts in the way in which we do things. And based on the way in which we do things, I am biasing the future directions of my staffing and the future directions of my org and the things that we value and the things that we're going to try and do, towards a bunch of different things that were not the things that we were doing today, which is a lot more of, like you just said, getting curious and solving problems from the point of curiosity, using the things around us, right? It's not just, oh, we're going to go and invent these things over here because we're designers. It was like, look at the things that you have, the parts bin, if you will, and start driving alternate value from the things that you have, right? Like we were talking about last week. It's like, go broad to drive value as quickly as you possibly can. And, whatever the cut on the events of this particular timeline, what's going on in the world, whatever your take is, political, technological, like social fabric, invention, business, whatever. It's crazy that those things were percolating for you and I 3.5 years ago. And like you were talking about, like, the economy is impending like shifts and, it's going to go even further away from the attention economy to, you were even talking about bits and bytes back then. It's like, this is what's going to be traded and these things will represent, whatever, your comms, your value, the way in which things are perceived, right? Like the perception is going to change because we will no longer physically see representations. We will only see the representations of these things as they're delivered to us through these various channels. And like, oddly, spot on.
War being fought with bits instead of bombs. I mean, they're still using bombs, but it's more about it's cheaper to manufacture a narrative. And if AI can make video and people don't, we're like in a bubble. Like if we're on Twitter and in tech at some point, like it feels like we're behind. But like you said, the last podcast, the last episode, it's like we're still so early that it's almost like a future bias where we're like we're further along the acceleration curve than like a normal person who has like 2 kids in Park Slope or whatever, or in Brooklyn, and you know whatever. So yeah, a lot of the themes from the original DEF CON talk, they still hold true because no matter what you build, like anything that's like innovative is going to become a monolith or some legacy system over time. It's just the process of evolution. Given enough, innovation cycles, it's something new comes along, and that cycle just collapses faster and faster. And even at a small firm like I'm working at now, people don't want to change. It's really hard, and this is like the closer we get to the tip of the asymptote, like where it just goes up, almost like vertical. Like it's like a perpetual stubbornness, and it's a point where it's like you can't fight the current of the ocean. Like if a big wave is coming over, like doesn't matter how big, like you're gonna get hit, you're gonna get knocked over. And I don't know, man. We're almost at the point where the wave is gonna crest, and that's gonna be February. Like we got eclipses, we've got that Saturn-Neptune conjunction at the beginning of Aries, which hasn't happened in like 6,400 years. I mean, there's other cycles within that, but that's like the last time that happened was when religion started. So this, and then what are we seeing with like this little Christafarianism that we were just talking about with like Claudebot? It's like they're making their own religion. So you're going to see like AI religions. You're going to see people. I don't know, man. It it's hard because it's like you don't. It's almost like the dominant or the best strategy right now is to do nothing and to like wait and to be patient as much as you want to like move and lurch and run.
How long is that cycle?
Probably like a month, because Mercury's going to go retrograde. It's going to go shadow in like 2 weeks, and then it's going to be retrograde through the middle of March. So not until like April, May is when you start moving, but you're going to start getting information now until that point, because when eclipses happen, like it's just crazy chaotic energy. I mean, this is when they took out kings and stuff, where kings would die, and they would even replace some kings with like fake people because they just knew, they're looking at like what's called conjunctional astrology, is when planets come together and they basically just start the cycle again if you just time it. So February's going to be crazy. I mean, January was nuts when you think about like black bagging Maduro, who may or may not have been CIA. Like more people forget about Ukraine. People forget about all these Epstein files. People forget, all the stuff going on in Minneapolis with like, the murders, the shootings, like all the stuff going on. There's supposedly like, it's just like at this point, I think you have to look at it like a movie and just be like, okay, we're living in a movie right now. And it's day by day to like not lose your humanity. And again, the whole algorithm thing for me is about finding what resonates and like using that as the weapon against all this noise. Because if you're using AI to do anything, even if you're looking stuff up or having it help you like write something or writing emails, I mean, if it's not a real reflection of who you are or what feels like natural, and this is like the Leo full moon, because Leo's like the heart, like what actually, because that's like the thing that beats your own pulse, then you're not doing it right. I think that's what the correction's gonna come. And yeah, patience is hard, especially in Aries, because Aries wants to go and move, and Saturn's like, it wants to go slow. And so you can't, Saturn can't go slow, because Aries is like, screw it, I'm just going to do it and start defining it. So it's like starting to kind of build the vector or the direction, but not being so attached to what that outcome is. So this gets back to like the suspend your ego thing. And that's why it worked for us in the beginning, because I was like, all right, screw it. Like, we'll see what happens. We're going to plant some seeds, and it could be any vast array of outcomes on this continuum. And I think that's kind of more the quantum, for lack of a better term, way to think about things where it's like it's both at the same time, and it could be anything, and it's and then the hacker part of like, dude, if you can have some spare cash, take care of yourself. Like, I don't know, call your relatives. Like, people are getting older. Like I'm dealing with this shit with family stuff right now, so it's like, I don't know. It's hard because you don't want to like be preachy and spiritual and try and like dictate to people how they should live their lives, because everyone's got a different value system. So maybe this is like a long-winded way of saying like it's going to help you figure out, this next 2 months are going to help you figure out what really matters if you're like open to that, like what really matters in your own value system.
Yeah. I mean, that's huge. I think it's important. I think the other thing for me personally that complicates it, this guy is an Aries.
Bro, dude, you're going to have a huge new awakening. This is going to be awesome. So actually, everybody, it's going to be good, because we talk outside of this too about things we can't talk about publicly on like podcasts with like work and stuff or whatever. But like, this is going to be good for you, because the way you're moving, the way you're thinking, the kind of way that we're evolving as men, as humans, as like people or whatever, it's going to be good. It's just, I think it's teaching you patience and persistence, which you've always kind of been in a way. You've kind of always been kind of strategic with things.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not crazy rash, but like you're describing, and again, I believe that the time of the year that you are conceived drives some amount of personality traits, right? Like we're not all carbon copies. Like not every person who's born, near the end of March through April all has the same personality.
Yeah.
But there are some things that become these common traits that you do kind of rely on. And while I'm not an overly rash human being, the need to push things forward and the need to see change, and sometimes the bashing into that, like, and just, nope, like, change needs to happen, becomes
Yeah.
relentless at times.
It's hard because I grew up from like, people who, ex-military parent, and like, if you're not 15 minutes early, you're 5 minutes late kind of thing. So it's just
Right.
like nuts, right? And it for me, it's like it's like more like a jazz standard, where it's like, okay, you have this kind of like thing, this chord progression laid out, and it's kind of like how you move or kind of flow within it, and that's what's always worked. But if I tried to be like, okay, I have this timeline, I got to like knock these things out in this time, and the more I push, like it blew up. And that's what kind of had me second guessing, do I build this computer or not? Because RAM prices kept going up, like the GPUs went up, like parts were out, you couldn't pre-order. I'm like, am I just not supposed to do this right now? And then I'm like, no, dude, like this thing's going to be like triple the cost by like the middle of 2027 at this point, if this curves keep going. And
Yeah.
that's, so that I think that's part of the constant process of self-evaluation, where you kind of like, instead of judging, learning how to take it in as like new information. Like, okay, I got feedback. How am I going to adjust? And this is like the systems thinking part, where it's like you put something in, you get something out. How are you going to react? I mean, I don't know. I think, at least for me, I don't know for you, but that's kind of how I've always been thinking about things, like input, output, and trying to evolve. But I guess sometimes the Aries part can just be like, all right, I'm just going to like lead foot this thing. Like, he'll toe this and like go into the corner a little bit hot, instead of like slow is smooth and smooth is fast.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. I mean, I think, yeah, you've nailed it. I fight those things personally, right? Not that this is a segment about me, but I feel that, where I'm like, the systems thinker in me knows better. The system thinker in me knows that the inputs are coming in and I'm evaluating them. And I never ignore them. I always pay attention to the inputs that are coming in. I can't help myself, I think, in some ways.
You're subconsciously aware, for better or worse.
Yeah. And I mean, I can't not process them. I have to. Like, there's just something, it's like almost like a compulsion that says I have to process them. But yeah, I fight that on the other end of just like, we got to get to an answer, like we need an answer to this problem. So,
And it's hard when you're seeing a problem before other people see it, or they're just like, that's not a problem. And I'm like, dude, I don't want to deal with this. Like, what? I'm like, I can't give specific examples because of what's going
Yep.
on, but like,
I hear you.
I'm sure we're saying it's but like, it can drive you nuts because you feel like you have like a Cassandra complex where you're like, I can see what's happening. This is the truth. And then it's like, whether it's like interpersonal relationships or job kind of things where they're paying you for a vision or for knowledge or for foresight. And you're like, and at some point you're like, all right, fine. You know what? It's going to blow up. So here you go. You want to blow it up? Then here you go.
Yeah. Actually,
Yeah.
one process thing that is related to work that I can talk about, which is you just touched on, which I've always struggled with, which I think you and I lovingly called melting. Like you're like, Cam, you can't go in there and say all that. You're gonna melt their brains. And I'm like, what, Keith? Like that concept for me was such a foreign concept, honestly. Like, and you kept saying, it's a lot of information, Cam. Like, do you have any idea? Like, if you start going and you're like talking at the speed that you're going, you're going to literally melt their brains. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah,
And
and I
it
know
took me like another 10 years to get to a place where I was like, all right, you can break these things down. Like, you can start with an example. You can talk about what the example means and you can stop. Like, you don't need to be like, here's all of it. Like, just drop the seed. Like, this is all you need to know for right now, and be okay with that. And again, the Aries of me is like, no, we're going to force our way all the way through.
Like, just get it. What's the matter? Like, it's so simple. Like, dude, this is the story of my life. Like, this is why I was like, okay, because I run into this even still all the time. Because someone's like, they'll ask me a question about something technical or like, I don't know, gold and Bitcoin or something. And I'm thinking through like, okay, there's like a security piece, there's a money piece, whatever. And I'm like, and they're like, I'm like, dude, like, okay, never mind. I'm like, then don't ask me. I'm like, you know how I'm thinking about this stuff. Like, yeah, like, it's like, if you're just going to buy something and like, it's never going to go up. It's like, sure, enjoy. But, and then it's like, what's your time horizon? What are you going to do? It's like, do you work for the city and you got a pension? I'm like, is your pension going to be there in 2 decades? He's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, dude, are you not paying attention to what's going on? And it's like, they're not even thinking about that. So I'm like, all right, you know what? Screw it. Like, it's hard because it's like, there's like a little devil on your shoulder, like, don't say it, don't say it, don't say it. And the other side's like, do it. Tell him.
Yeah. Yeah. So that part, I think, despite the need to get it out there, right? Like, this is what you need to know, and this is why it's important, and here's what it's going to drive, and like, you need to commit to this because like otherwise lost opportunity, or like we're all going to die,
Yeah.
Reminding yourself that on the other side of the table is somebody who's like, wait, what?
They're not even at like step one
of
that yet. They're like, how do I turn on the computer? Like, and you're thinking about like, RAM, megahertz of RAM, like speed of RAM and overclocking. And you're like, okay, wait a second. We got to come back a second. And
yeah. I mean, senior execs are not immune to this problem. Like, and that's the other thing that,
dude,
you and I were dealing with that at daily. And it was like, why don't they get this? And it's just like, well, the 10-year post-mortem on that is they didn't get it because they all were working in their specific areas of expertise. They were not broad thinkers. They were not paid to be broad thinkers. They didn't see success being broad thinkers. They were like, I am optimizing the daylights out of this particular part of our supply chain. And you're like, and you are doing it really well. Like, but what happens when we need to do this? And they're just like, can't do it. It's like, you might have to.
So, and what's happening now is that this is pervasive across like all companies and all industries all at the same time right now. So it's not just AI accelerating this, it's the inverse relationship of like the legacy system like seizing up, like an engine running with no oil. It gets so hot that it basically becomes a molten piece of metal because it can't move.
Well, I mean, I think you're on to something with that. Like again, Macy's is like the gift that keeps giving in this particular area. And because it's like 15 years on, we can talk about it because who knows what they're doing. And we haven't been associated with them for at least 12.
I can make some more predictions, but I got to watch my tongue. And that's bad. I mean, they could have been.
It's a giant REIT, basically. They don't care about any of the other things. They don't.
Dude, I know. It's okay. So go ahead. I want to derail you.
like I'm gonna fortify the point that you just made about the engine running with no oil. Like, remember when we were there and everything was, we can't do anything because we're stuck on this monolithic system from the 60s.
The AS400 or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
And there was never any economical way to get out of that death spiral, endless loop of pain that thing gave us, right?
Yeah.
Now everybody's in the, oh, I'll just, like, it's literally like the table flip. I'll just not worry about upgrading or, making these things compatible or trying to find things. I'll just throw it away and start over, right? Because everybody's bought this hype that the intelligent underpinnings of an AI system can solve any of these problems. And it's like free from these conventions that we like. I'll just talk to the AI and the AI program itself. It's like, well, no.
Dude. Oh God.
So, but people's risk tolerance has gone through the roof with that. They're just like, fuck it. Like,
it's the
all in
worst
on
thing
AI.
to do too. Yeah, but it's like and that's the end of Pisces. Is that because Saturn should be the structure, and Pisces is like the dissolution of all this stuff. With when Neptune was there, but it just went in Aries, like, or I think it's about to. I have to look. It's almost crazy something going on, but yeah, they don't. There's no boundary, and it's almost like they don't care anymore, and it's like almost like the worst thing to do, because then you're giving away like complete autonomy to this like. And they could have fixed it. Like, they had decades, and dude, every company is going through this kind of thing right now, where it's, I don't know, man.
It's madness. I mean, honestly, like, again,
That's why I don't worry about the warfare part either, because I'm like,
no,
they're gonna try to go to war, but they're gonna fucking botch the job because like, let's just AI it, and we're gonna quantum AI it now because the guys at Palantir said we could do it when they're just like a giant consulting firm, and it's like, okay, it's not gonna work. It's like gonna shut itself. It's almost like I don't know if it was this podcast or if it was some random rant I was talking about, but I wonder if the AI becomes sentient enough that it actually saves the humans from themselves, being like, no, they're going to kill themselves. They're like,
well, I mean, yeah, there's a bunch of science fiction about that, but the unintended consequences of that are never good.
I mean, who knows at this point? So I don't know, man. It's craziness. I think about yeah, I don't know where we go, or what you do, or what you like recommend at this point, because it's just everyone's in the exact same boat. So it's almost like everyone's getting re-equalized in some way, no matter where you are.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think you and I were trying to stay as far away from work things as possible. Not for, I mean, there's some things, as you just said, that we can't talk about, but there's other things like, just like, I don't know about you, but I'm exhausted thinking about work. And
yeah.
And there's part of me that just can't even bear to be thinking about being on a podcast talking about work. But from a systems perspective, right? Take the work out of it for a minute. Like, I think one of the things that I'm realizing is, to maybe come down one level from the wait things out, be patient, and also, don't get locked into one thing. My learning from this week specifically about the AI stuff, right? And I'm not going to talk about the application of it to a particular part of the business or anything like that, but the strategy, the mental model strategy that I am now like deploying, I'll keep it very simple. There is AI for repetitive tasks. Autonomous AI doing repetitive tasks that you're like, you're doing this on behalf of humans, the users, whatever, however you want to, term them.
Scan my receipts, put it in a tax folder for the year.
Yeah. Like right now, very low level tasks. And you can trust AI as long as it is in a framework, and frameworks are important. And again, not to be harping on the design end of this, but designers are really good with building frameworks. And frameworks are the things that protect you from hallucinations and unknown consequences and systems gone awry.
Leaking data. That's sensitive.
Frameworks matter in that. And information architecture, again, to the design side of things, like information architects should not just be thinking about the information architecture for humans anymore. They should be thinking about it for the machines and the agents, because that is how you get to stable systems that don't randomly decide to go do something because you're like, hey, the most efficient way of doing this machine is the following things. Oh, and by the way, if your entire reason for being is these tasks, these lower level tasks that are repetitive and time consuming, there are ways that work efficiently for you, machine, and for me, human. And by defining those things and like putting a design to them and an architecture to them, both things win. You win because you're like, hey, I'm now not dealing with cleaning up the random response from the machine. And the machine wins because it's like, hey, I can get done with this in a much more efficient way. And businesses win. I mean, to bring business in just for a second, businesses win because that more efficient way of doing things is a time saving for the human, but it is a time saver for the machine as well. And like, I think the odd thing, again, that because Clarke's computing architecture or model is timeshare based compute, right? And he keeps bringing this up in various books because that's the world of compute that he's most familiar with, is like, hey, compute resources are scarce and they're very expensive. Well, guess what? It's 2025 and compute resources on AI are scarce and they're expensive.
Dude, I was going to say, we're right back at square one again.
And then the other side of it, the other mental model is augmentation of a human being, right? You brought up jazz. That's a great analogy. Like, the other side of AI that you can embrace and go after, and it's less risky, is like the composition of things that are unknown. And in that regard, you're sort of like, hey, AI, go bring me a bunch of knowledge about X, Y, and Z. Go structure that knowledge in a certain way so that I can understand it. Check the knowledge with give me references so that I can go research it, right? It's not just like, oh, here it is, and I'm going to go do what this thing says, because like that level of creation is like, again, another totally smart way of human and AI working together. It's like, I don't know what I don't know. Present me with a bunch of things and reference them so that I can go deep on things, or maybe you and I go deep on these things together, right? And I don't know what I'm trying to invent yet, or I don't know what I'm trying to create, but I need a bunch of like points of data or points of knowledge or points of inspiration or points of ideation that I can then go after. Like, AI is great at that, but you're not, like, again, this fear of, oh, these higher level functions and white collar work across the board, like, is dead. It's like, if you're in white collar work where you're doing a repetitive task that honestly a business probably didn't want to pay you for 10 years ago, yeah, might be kind of dead, right? And and then one last thing, and then I'm going to completely leave design, systems, and AI aside, at least in terms of business. On the design end, like, if you're a designer and you think, this goes all the way back to the beginnings of last year, if you're a designer and you think that creating interfaces is actual creation, you've totally missed the last 3 years. Like, absolutely missed it.
But that was the information that got passed around, and that's what got rewarded, because if it goes back to like the art and copy from like advertising, and then the tech came with like UX and it kind of made it digital. So
Those things aren't creative though. They're not. It's not invention anymore. It's rinse and repeat. It's refine a concept. And like, again, AI, probably with all of its data points, is increasingly getting better at that.
Oh yeah. I mean, there's a part of my subconscious that has to break, because when I was doing like wireframes and flows, they were like, these look too designy. And I'm like, dude, like you gotta, because it was like responsive at that point. So you had to do 3 interfaces at the same time, which now it's just like, I think you should just make it. it's
I
just,
mean, the tooling that I'm working on does all that. It keeps track of all of it. You don't need to
yeah,
think about oh, on this page, it's like the response is X and, the response is X plus 1 through 6, right? Like,
yeah.
it's all in there. You don't need
Uh,
to document that. You don't even need to think it through. It's like, oh, I get what you're trying to do. You're moving from this space to this space. All right, here are all the states. And here's an air state too. And you're like, wow, amazing.
yeah. I mean, but you should be able to program it or like context engineer it, which, for lack of a better term, whatever you want to call, like what you were kind of explaining the last 2 minutes, to do all this stuff for you to kind of shape the flow of like where you're trying to go.
Well, I mean, it does. It's a better pattern recognizer than we are.
Yeah, I mean, plus it's like you can tune it to be like it's a bank, so you can't give a positive, hit for there's a like an email address, because then you can just brute force it to turn it off, and they can't
Yeah.
pay their bill, because then things like that. But that's like you wouldn't do that on Facebook or a social networking app or whatever. Which
Well, again, that's
yeah.
like frameworks, right?
So I wonder if a new breed of information architect is going to evolve. That is not just going to be like, because at some point, how do you make the maps to understand kind of what's going on? Because at some point, it's like there's going to be this delta of like not knowing what the AI knows, and it's just kind of like a total black box. And if you're designing things, I mean, I don't know, I'm a visual person. I have to have some kind of like map to things to understand what the hell's going on.
I mean, I think it works the same. Like the the information architecture mental model is not any different, right? Like back in the day, when my main gig was information architecture, and IDG in Natick, Massachusetts handed me 40 years of topical, PC world, Mac world, information world, like all the world magazines, right? The first thing that they did was they gave me a bunch of requirements. Hey, what we're trying to do is this. And they were like, we want to know when we talked about hard drives at PC World, Mac World, Information Week, blah, 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 that there's a way from our system that we can pull all of that up, right? Like we don't, and then we want to filter. So that was the next thing. Is like we want to filter to basically be like, what was happening in the world of PCs? What was happening in the world of Macs? What was happening in servers? What was happening, in
Signal.
And so, you develop some tags in the world of like being an information architect for AI, and potentially like one practical problem space right now is how many agents do I need? Right?
Because then it's a compute question at the end of the day, and token question, yeah.
And so, like, if I were IDG and I were talking to Cameron, I'd say, hey, the first thing that I'm really concerned about is speed and latency. I don't want Keith to wait 5 minutes for a response to come back. And the next thing that I might say is like efficacy matters to me as well. Like I want whatever comes back to Keith to be, and then, take your 5 nines here, like accurate, right? Like if I can't rely on the efficacy of what's being delivered to this level of fidelity and accuracy, then it's a fail. And expense. There are knowns and there are known knowns, there are unknown knowns, and there are known knowns. Like break the knowns into all the things that, we should develop knowledge bases for. Keep those out of a large language model, keep those out of a fully agentic framework, and let an agent spin through that data some period, almost like a cron job, some period of time, and as Keith keeps pummeling the system with his requests, refine that, right? Like maybe all of the knowledge that we think an agent needs to know to answer Keith's questions about hard drive storage space really isn't that important. Like maybe all the things that we were talking about, like Winchester disks, which basically don't exist unless you're in a data center at this point, we don't really need to spin the agent through that data anymore. So you can subdivide that as like hard drives pre 2010, right? Like it's the same problem. You just need to know like what the asks are from the organization or the group of humans or the users that you are now serving. And instead of going and thinking about it like human to human, like, hey, humans don't do well when the navigation gets below, more than 25 items. Break the navigation into, subsections. It's kind of the same thing, but for machines. It's like, hey, maybe maybe an agent, it's too expensive to like have it, be able to like understand what Keith's asking for, go find the thing that Keith needs, reconstitute it in a form that Keith understands, put it into a visual framework and an auditory framework. Like maybe all of those steps get broken down and you're sort of like, I need an agent to figure out like how to present this to Keith. And I might need an agent that understands the brand of IDG so that when it's presented to Keith, it's in a form that like feels good and engenders trust, right? All those things I think are the things that people, in a design world will need to think through in the future.
Man, this is so different because then the next logical step is like exposing an API to your data set in a secure way and then having your agent basically look at understanding the best way for you to ingest it.
Like we talked about that last week, eBay is going in the wrong direction with that nonsense, but the entire world is going that way. And again, I can't talk about strategies, but I think what I said last week, I'm getting signal, not just at work, but talking to other people who are designing and thinking through these things, that is right. The branded design form that we expect things to show up in, that's not what needs to be designed. What needs to be designed is the response, right? Whatever that response is, whether that is like Siri reading me something from whatever marketplace I'm on, to the way in which Siri responds with the data, right? Like that means I could tag certain things in the data that I hand to Siri to make it sound more like eBay and less like Amazon, right? Or more like the Real and less like Macy's. And maybe also my helpfulness with the agent goes broader. Like, hey, Keith, I totally see that, you're in the car right now. Hang on. Like by the time you get home, I'm going to have, this sitting, queued up and ready to go in a browser interface for you. All you need to do is like, when you get home, tell Siri to like load the result, right? Maybe that's Macy's technique. Like, we're going to sell you right now. Like, we need to close this deal with like, or maybe, like if you're not Macy's, you're Nordstrom's, you're like, hey, we got a bunch of other things that we're thinking about for you as well. Like, in addition to the hats that you asked for, like we've curated the t-shirts and the sweaters as well, right? Like that level of experience design is, I think, where all of the interface designers should be going next. Like, design the experience based on the brand, deliver the experience in whatever medium, on whatever device, in whatever context, and be very deliberate about the context, right? Like that's where good non-browser delivered interface design goes next. It's like, I'm going to be super not verbose when you're in the car and I know that you're traveling at 90 miles an hour and you're also using CarPlay, versus you're traveling at 90 miles an hour, but you're not plugged into CarPlay, and there's another phone next to you that's actually, I think you might be the passenger. I have a little bit more room to be a little bit more verbose, or ask you if you want to see something on screen. If I know that you're on CarPlay, I'm absolutely not giving you the option for screen, right?
And what you're talking about is the evisceration of like a lot of privacy. I don't know if most people
Potentially.
understand. Yeah. Well, I mean,
and you were calling it out like, hey, don't hit your identity or any of your pay information to a malt bot. Like,
dude, but the thing is like, I really want to like experiment with these things to figure out like, like
what
YouTube,
the exploitation is and the hack.
Well, I mean, that'll come naturally because how my brain thinks, but like, how can I use it to make my life easier? So, okay, so back to like the repeatable, easy thing. Like you got to pay for like YouTube Plus. It's like 16, 17, it's like almost, I don't know, it's a stupid amount of money to basically get ad free and be able to download to your freaking app. And I'm like, dude, no, this is not worth it for like paying more money to Google to do this. So it's like, if there's a way to download like a video and have it put it on like a little, your shared folder or whatever, whether it's like Dropbox or whatever, just be like, hey, download this thing, put it on there and shoot me a text message when it's uploaded so I can just go watch it or like listen to it in the background, because I don't watch a lot of this stuff, but I'm listening to things like a lot, so something simple like that to just be like, and then have it archive it to like your own knowledge base. So I think there's like a handful of things, people who start experimenting with all this AI stuff, for lack of a better term, is like they're gonna run into a lot of the same um kind of the same. There's like food groups. Like you're probably going to start building your own knowledge base of stuff. You're going to, whether it's books or movies or things, because, there's things you're going to want to like eventually. Someone's going to make it easy enough to just spin up your own external memory system that's going to be secure enough or whatever. And then like these security things will get taken care of eventually. It's the early adopters versus like,
Yeah.
the innovators
Yeah.
or whatever.
I mean, again, wade into all those things cautiously, but wade into them, right? Like that, that's a fascinating thing. I think if you don't do that, to your point, you miss the opportunity to get curious about where the vulnerabilities are in the example that you're talking about and how you could solve them, right? Like be the first person to solve them.
Yeah, I mean, and that's how I think the designers make the best move in the next wave. Because what you're talking about with conversational and all the stuff, it's basically pulling context from all the sensors at the same time and then making a decision based on what it's assuming you're doing and then
Yep.
changing the data that way. But
that's just one very specific use case, right?
yeah.
Like,
But as a designer, that totally implodes their map of the world. You're talking about the world, the universe revolves around the Earth versus the universe revolves around the sun, or the solar system revolves around the sun. It's a total change of model of like perception.
Yeah.
And wayfinding.
Yeah. And you have to change your entire model of perception, right? Like what we're talking about is an actual conversation that I had with a designer this week where I'm like, kind of like, you need to not be thinking about the human consumption of your information architecture. You need to be thinking about the agentic consumption of your information architecture. And this is not the same. Like, in some ways, your thought process is the same, right? It's like, hey, agents are going to have a hard time spinning through that much data efficiently, like humans spinning through, 25 lines deep of navigation, right?
Yeah.
It's the same problem. Like how you think about it on the back end as a designer, you're going to use a lot of the same techniques. Like, okay, I could break this way. I could break this way. I could categorize these things and subcategorize these things, right? Same problem space that we're naturally really good at. You got to remember that you're now not doing this for the same use case. It's a totally different use case. But the mental model that a designer is going to go through or an information architect is going to go through is exactly the same. You don't need to relearn those things. You just need to apply it to a different problem space. And like you said, in a world where the sun is now going around the moon and, you have to reorient quickly and just basically be like, okay, got it. And same Swiss Army knife's going to come out. It's not like you're like, oh, like when the sun's going around the moon, I now need like a scepter, it's like, nope, same Swiss Army knife can work. Just figure out like how to use it as, the gravity's shifting a little bit, right?
All right. Check these. Okay. So a couple of things. One, this is going to be not just designers, but everybody. Because the technologists are like, no, it's Python code and I know how to do it this way. And it's like, it's the same as a manager who's been in a managing position going from VP to SVP for the past 15 years. Like they're so stuck in that way of thinking that it's going to be harder for them, even though they have more time in that one position.
Yes.
So no one's immune. What I'm thinking now is, as a kind of side tangent, it's like the agents need love too, and they're going to get rewarded based on efficiency. So if we go from I don't think it's going to be universal basic income. I think it's going to be universal basic data, where you're going to get credits or tokens or whatever from the government to share your data, or you're going to have to at some point. And then the more efficient your agent is, or your set of agents is, the more tokens you're going to get, or the more income you're going to get in reverse, because as you said, it's still a metabolism to be more efficient. I don't know. But then it's like, what does like the digital bill of rights 2.0 look like? Because now you're effectively giving away all your privacy rights at that point. And it's not just you as an individual, it's you pooled with, 20 million other people in the city of New York or whatever, or like in the state of New York. And you can just pull, the more time you have, the more inference and the more, knowledge you can pull out of like what, like I said, okay, do you want to buy this now? Do you want to do this? How do they social engineer you through like, nudging or whatever the hell they're calling it? This is crazy. This is where we're going though. This is the Pluto, this is the Aquarian world.
I mean, maybe in our off hours or in your off hours, since you came up with this the first time, right? And I like this was you melting my brain 12-ish, 10, 12 years ago, when you're like, you know what, Cam, it's a culture of attention, and it's an economy of, it's economy of attention, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And you're like, influencers are going to become these like mega stars. Like, we're not going to have like, you're not going to just have movie stars anymore. You're going to have these people that become cultural icons, like just because they've said stupid shit online. And I'm like, okay, really? Like, and you're like, this is what's happening. And I'm wondering, as you were just saying that, I'm wondering if that type of a mental model and business model in the world of AI only knows what it knows from the humans that have expressed something, in this case right now, online or, into some sort of a knowledge base that AI has control of. For AI to continue to evolve in ways wholly unknown to itself, right? Like, it can evolve based on the knowledge that it knows, but it needs to constantly take in new knowledge to continue to evolve beyond the patterns that it can bring together, right? Like, it can come up with its own sphere of things that are going to be brand new, but it's all based on our old knowledge, right? The truly,
data only exists about the past, basically.
Yes. And it can create its own future based on combining things from the past, but it can't, like, net new things that a human perceives. It can't. It's going to have no way of doing that, right? Like even like back to the sun going, around the moon versus the, moon going around the earth and the earth going around the sun.
The change of the heliocentric to the geocentric model, yeah.
Yeah, like, it's not going to know that unless a human tells it that that's happening, right? And a human's got to perceive that.
But can you create agents to have it do that? And then is it like limited by the amount of tokens that you pay or feed it?
Well, all that, yeah. Of course it's going to be limited.
So then all the more reason to, I guess this is more geared to like if you're actually curious or not and wanting to kind of see what you can do, because, well, let me finish what you're getting at, because I don't want to derail you, because you were like talking about
so where I'm getting at is like, I'll be honest. When you brought up the economy of attention,
yep,
I was like, I believed it. It wasn't like, nah, it's not going to happen. I'm like, yep. I was like, but man, what a stupid job that is, right? Like that was like the thing. And now I'm sitting here 12 years on. It was like, those people are the only people that got paid for their last 10 years of work. They're the only ones that managed to like monetize what has become this hugely paid for bank of information that now everybody's clamoring to get.
Zero marginal cost, dude. Yeah.
And it's like, now it's like, if you jumped into that space, you have to learn all of that monetization and all of the technique that those guys have used for the last like 10 years to make cash.
I think, yeah, because that model is collapsing to an extent, because one, you have super saturation of people who are trying to do it because they want to be popular.
Sure.
And two, because it's like the AI slopification of everything, So it's almost like, again, what really resonates? What is the core harmonic of the light and the lighthouse that you're propagating to show the way back for people? And that, I think the key is consistency without burnout. Because I still think, there's a lot of companies now looking for founding creators, which is I'm thinking about as kind of like a next foray, because the chief of staff thing, like, I love being a chief of staff, but that's what these Claudebot or whatever, or Moldbot is going to basically become once it becomes trusted enough. Like, everyone's going to have one.
Yeah.
And then, a chief of staff, when I look at it, it's just to make things happen. Like, so it's like whatever how do you find solutions in anything? And I don't know. It's a crazy time. I mean, I don't know where this is heading, because part of me is wondering, like, that's why we're doing this now too, is to put our ideas out there. And it's not like, oh, we're going to make a bunch of money doing this, but it's like we're seeing things that are happening again and again, and they're dilemmas that haven't changed, that are just cyclical, vis-a-vis the AS400. And like, it doesn't matter. Apple's having issues, Google's having issues, Amazon, all these companies they're not immutable from change or from evolution. Like, even the US and China, like, the strengths and there's weaknesses, and there's like other outside influences. And I don't know. It's I don't know where I'm going with this now. I'm kind of just like, I melted my own brain in this process. Look at that. That's so freaking funny.
Your camera go out again?
Dude, but it went out when I said I just melted my own brain.
Yes. At that exact minute.
Dude, see?
Is this your Sony, whatever it is, ZX10 or
ZE10 Mark II? Yeah. Let me see if this works.
It's kind of funny. Well, I mean, my own experience.
Oh, God.
You're going to need to go in and like up the temperature protection.
Dude, it's on max, and I think it's because there's a cloth behind this thing. Also,
yeah, you can't do that like that. I've learned that. Like, I hated this thing so much because it would always, I mean, you remember, it was shutting down like all kinds of time, like crazy times, right? It would get super hot. And now I spin this thing up like 30 minutes before you and I pod. We do the whole thing. And sometimes I forget to turn it off, and then I'll come back. I'm like, God damn, the
fan's still on, yeah.
Well, the fan's on and the camera's on and the prompter's on, because, it's sending signal down, to my desktop. And
yep.
Without the cloth, you touch the camera back and the camera's like not hot at all. Like, it needs a lot of space behind it to make.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
I got to get a little remote so I can zoom in and out too, because this is.
Oh, if you find that, can you send me that too? Because like I need that as well. Like, every time I touch the thing, it moves like everything. So
yeah, and this is like a little bit like jittery. I had if you're building this stuff, like, it's a lot of work. Like, I like doing it. Yeah, to make it consistent, to make it fast, and to be able to you can't just like turn one switch and everything goes on, because it's like it's got a sensor and it's
over the holidays, like, I didn't tangent, but hey, for all of you that are trying to get your ideas out in something like a podcast, it can be done. It can be done by non-technical people. Keith is way more technical, at least with the gear. Like, right? He's got the film degree. I'm not the film degree.
Yeah, but you're a car guy. You can freaking.
I mean, I've hacked things together, but like, I'm pretty reliant on you to basically be like, hey, your AV setup should look something like this. And then I go do research. But like, once you even get the gear, it's so much to get it integrated and to get it to work right. Like, and I had my system up and going for like 6 months, but it wasn't great. It had a lot of issues. And, over the holidays, it was like my kid he's building a gaming PC. So thankfully he got a GPU and a few other things before they went crazy expensive. But,
nice.
He needed a monitor. And I'm like, I'm not going to buy this guy a monitor. I'm going to like upgrade my monitor and give him my perfectly good and totally reasonable for gaming monitor. Right.
Yeah.
And I wanted dual monitors anyway, so I could split things. And if I were using 2 different computers, I could have one on one and, the other on the other. But just changing the monitors ended up being this colossal like shift in my setup where I was like, everything is on the floor in a heap right now, and I have to rebuild it from the ground up.
Dude, especially if it's like a Mac from a few years ago where it's like all USB-C and there's like sub rules about like what you can plug in and what you can't, and then it goes to like DisplayPort. I know there's a ton of like little things that, you know, working for like a non-technical person, it's like, why does it just work? I'm like, because that's not how it works.
Yeah.
But when someone's hyper literal, I'm like, just turn it off and on again. She's like, I did. And I'm like, and it went to sleep. It didn't fully reboot to like purge the memory. And I'm like, and it's funny because I'll call the IT guys that we pay and like, did you turn it off and on again? I'm like, dude. I'm like, thank you for the reminder.
Well beyond this.
Yeah, like this is another level.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no, you're right. Like, I mean, my desktop is, you know, I got it late last year, mid to late last year. So, you know, it was a current Mac Mini for this particular application.
Well, that's a whole new architecture with sharing the RAM with the GPU and the CPU too. So it's not just like, you know, dedicated VRAM. So it's like that has its own bus issues too. I mean, it's not bad, but
it's fine. I mean, like for what I'm doing, it's totally fine. Like, you know, and as I was telling you yesterday, it's like 48 gigs of RAM seemed excessive and crazy when I bought it. It was like, I can't believe I'm specifying a Mac Mini that's costing me like $1,600. Like, what am I doing at this minute, right?
Now it looks like a great deal. The RAM price is going up, and 48 to 64, I think I got 64 on my studio just because I wanted to like experiment with a little bit of like, you know, running local LLMs. But I think 48 gigs, if I get a Mac Mini, is what I'm going to do next for like a little pseudo gapped, like Clawbot kind of guy.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I was thinking about getting the truly recommended spec, which was like the cheapest one that you can get. It's like 16 and 256, and you know, like you said, it's not connected to a monitor unless you need to do something, and most of the time you're like remoting in from your other system. But yeah, I won't use it for anything other than that. But
I think that's a really good design constraint to kind of see what you can kind of do. It's like you have this like little lightweight guy that's like entry-level pricing, and you know, you can always hack it to put a bigger SSD into it. I mean, you avoid the warranty, obviously, but
for $540, like,
who cares?
What do I care? Yeah.
I mean, well, it's not cheap, but
it's not cheap. But I mean, you're writing that off anyway. So.
Yeah, and relative to like a $1,600, $1,800 Mac Mini that you would spec, because I'm like, I want 10 gig, I want a terabyte drive, you know, because it's like if I'm going to use it, I want like an external node that I can send it to render while I'm doing something else. I don't know. So I'm on the fence right now because I'm wondering if like a $600, if you get it on sale, like a $550 little like local assistant guy is kind of the way to do it. So
yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're trying to do. Like I don't need another machine to render, and if I were going to do that, I'd probably go mobile for whatever work stuff I'm doing to the laptop that I have, and then just send a task to this thing to do at my desktop, right?
Yeah. That's
like reverse it versus, you know, because I have like all this. If I wanted to render or something, I could start that happening on the Mini, you know, and then just leave it and switch to my MacBook to do anything that I would need to do during the day. Just
they got a lot of power, dude.
Mini.
I mean, even the minimum spec Mac Mini's got a lot of like oomph to it. It's just not a lot of space. So
yeah. I mean, I have a bunch of external SSDs, so like that space I'm not worried about. But the RAM thing is always the one that I'm like, what do you do with that, right? Like, you know, I don't know. Can you hack that too?
No, they soldered that shit. I think the way that the SSD, I mean, at some point it's like, you know, it's like your old Beamer or whatever. It's like how much time do you want to spend on doing this when you can just be like, you know what, I'm going to pay $200 and just get more RAM and say screw it. It's like, what's your time worth? Because you could do it, I'm sure, but you know, do you want to make an 8-hour tutorial on YouTube about reflowing your RAM or whatever?
No, I want to do as little as possible at this moment and blow up as few things as possible. So, again, maybe that's part of the waiting, right?
I was just going to say that's like the great way to like end cap this whole episode. Like, do as little as possible and blow up as little as possible.
Yeah, for right now.
Yeah, for right now. Yeah.
But like also, I think maybe one other wrap up thing is you got to think differently about this stuff. Like that's the thing that I'm really realizing, right? And maybe one other little anecdote from my week, because it was to end on a happy note as well. Like the same designer that I was talking about the information architecture for the bots or the agents. We were having a conversation kind of about technical architecture, and we both have thoughts about this related to multi, because we're solving some problems that are not the exact problems that you and I are talking about, but the solutioning involves the same
tangential
set of thought processes, right?
Sure.
So the cool thing was, and like you and I were talking about, like you're either designing or building repetitive systems in a framework that keeps things tight so that the output is controlled. And then, there's the jazz player side of it where you're like, hey, I'm trying to figure things out. So like I sent him to think about a bunch of different things around technical architecture, and he is not a technologist, right? Like he's not a coder, he is not a developer, he is not a infrastructure person. He's a designer like me. And he did the thing that we were just talking about. He paired himself up with an agent that he said he designed and tailored the agent, like, hey, you're going to act as a smart developer with the skills and knowledge of the following things, and you're going to help me solve problems. And you're going to help me write a document that I can take to technologists that explains why we need to shift our technical architecture to match this information architecture. So he ended up writing a doc, and the two developers that he's meeting with are like, they're reading the synopsis and they're like, this won't work. And he's like, just read the doc. Like, don't tell me it won't work until you've read through what I'm trying to do. Like the synopsis tells you the problem space and some very high level thinking around what a potential solution is, but it's not the only solution. Read the doc. So he sits down with them for an hour, and by the end, the three of them are like, no, this is actually doable. It actually makes, like, the developers, like, actually, it makes a lot of sense. Because what he did was he laid out the framing and the requirements, and like, this is why it's important, and this is what we're trying to enable, and this is what it does for the human beings. Like, he gave all of that story up front, and then he's like, here's what I think the architecture needs to be technologically. And developers do not want anybody that is not a developer stepping into their world, right?
Nope.
Like, this is like walled garden stuff.
Well, yeah, 100%. And that wall's coming crashing down really fast.
100%. And, from a fungible resource, and this has been the chip on my shoulder for the last 9 months for a bunch of different reasons, he just proved that, like, with a little bit of thinking like a business person and a designer and pairing himself with a smart, technologically advanced agent, he could speak the language and come coherently with a solution.
Yeah, he hacked the system in like, not in like a negative way, but he found the back door to actually, at some point you have to be like, look, we have to read docs. I'm here to work with you guys. You have to give me the time because this is the task I was given. I set it up to the best of my ability to structure it in a way that you guys think. And it's like, oh yeah, actually it worked.
Yep. Now,
dangerous.
Outside of that work paradigm, he and I already know that it works. Because
he's built it already.
He's already built it. He's built it without the constraints of, our day jobs, which I'm not saying that it would work if he brought it into our day job. I'm just saying he went a step further and proved conceptually that it works, right? Like, that's amazing for a designer to basically be like, I built the architecture, I built the technical architecture in a way that we could describe, right? Like, and then I went and actually coded the technical architecture to a point that I could run a test and get an app. Like, it's not fully functioning. It doesn't have the interface attached, but he ran a unit test where he's like, can I get the data out of this in a way that like is faster, more like reliable, has a higher level of efficacy with less token burning? And he did
Dude,
it.
really, really good, like,
Be like
measurable
Dave.
goals. Yeah, dude. And he didn't melt their brain in the process. And he knew it would work. So it's like he took a step back to be like, instead of saying, I know it works and acting like,
And
a
here's the
jerk.
code, because like you're going to get into a firefight with that, right? Like if he handed over code, they're going to be like, nah, this won't work in our environment. There's a million reasons why it won't work. But instead, he went for the concept. He's like, the concept is this.
Yeah. Again, a little bit of curiosity went a long way, right? Maybe it's like curiosity and persistence.
Yeah.
Right. And a little bit of structure. So I don't know. I mean,
don't melt people's brains.
I think that's the title of this episode. Don't melt my brain.
Don't melt my brain.
Don't melt my brain, boss. Or you're the one who's melting the boss's brain, usually, if you're like thinking about it. But yeah.
Yep.
Dude, I know you got a hard stop in a few minutes.
I do.
But I think this is good. I'm glad we like got this to work and got going. Missed, the synchronistic camera turning off again, because I don't think these things are accidental. I think everything happens for a reason, but that's just, not going to melt people's brain with that crazy existentialism.
Thanks for reaffirming that I need to just wait, because I'm having a hard time.
Yeah,
sitting here just waiting.
We're good. Like, trust me. I'm like chomping at the bit to move ahead and fire. Like, the best analogy is like the software's installed, the new PC's built. We're doing the updates right now. We're gonna have to, based on what those updates do when you reboot the machine again, you have to tweak the BIOS a little bit. Just like we're almost there, and it's gonna be, all systems go like really soon. But it's like, trust me, like people who are trying to push and go crazy, like they're gonna run into their own swords right now.
Yeah,
and I'm like, okay, look, you want to do this? It's all you. Like, but you got to, don't try not lose your humanity in the process. And, saying to myself, try and find the empathy to like, everyone's going through something right now.
Yeah.
So to be open to that.
Well said. Like and thank you for saying that, because like I think that it's back here in the back of my head, but I think that's important. What you just said is,
you're doing it. I've known you long enough. Like, give yourself credit too. Like, we're all finding our way, man. But don't be too hard on yourself either.
Well, I appreciate that. Thanks. Like the heaviness is real. And I think, like I said, I'm not unique in that way. I think everybody, like you said it really well, everybody's feeling that. And
don't melt your own brain, dude.
It's okay.
Don't melt your own brain.
I'm trying not to. All right, Keith. Thanks, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you. We'll, I don't know, reconvene in the next week or two.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man.
All right.
Until then.
Appreciate you. Thanks.
You too, man. Later.
Later.